In India, everything is there for a price. What trend we are seeing right now is that there's this 3-screen. Why do we need a third screen? It's a distraction to the driver. Euro NCAP now makes it mandatory for all car manufacturers to have proper physical buttons.
My observation is, as always, Maruti's focus is very clear at the initial stage of introducing their e-Vitara. First, let us introduce a basic product, and then slowly and steadily we'll evolve the infrastructure as well as the car.
When other manufacturers with lesser resources than Maruti Suzuki in terms of scale are able to produce such brilliant products, why can't Maruti Suzuki do the same? The key difference is, at large, which people need to understand, and this is connected to the unreliability of the NCAP. That global NCAP is funded by philanthropist companies like Bloomberg Philanthropy and FIA. Euro with the global NCAP and Bharat NCAP, it's basically 1 or 2 cars or 3 cars at max for the crash test. They're not sending the cars with the least amount of safety net. They're sending their top models. The second greatest part which I feel about Tata is they are the flag bearers of safety in India. They were the first manufacturers who took the stride in their own hands and said, we would make safe cars.
What are some of the changes and standards that you would bring in? So welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Mr. Ishaan Bharadwaj. और अभी ईशान भारद्वाज ये कह रहे थे कि I'm so glad that we're not talking about Tata.
I mean, see, after getting married, in fact, मेरे को ना दोनों पहलू समझाने के लिए एक औरत आई है जिसने एक्चुअल में मेरा दिमाग खोला in terms कि how you should look at things in a more deeper perspective, which I thought I was with all my male ego, but वो ना उसको और ज़्यादा emphasize करके मेरे को समझाया गया कि see there are good and bad parts of both the sides, be logical in reasoning, which I now have become, fortunately.
You're mincing your words. पता है basically हेमंता tells you कि तुझमें अक्कल नहीं है.
But see, Tata is doing great in terms of design, which I highly appreciate.
Yeah.
Their new Sierra looks fantastic.
It does.
When I saw the car for the first time at the Auto Expo, it looked great.
Boss, there's something about their paint quality.
So,
which nobody else is able to match up to.
It gets rust very quickly, just
really?
by the way. Yeah. A lot of complaints come about it, but we'll come to the cons part later. But the pro part is great packaging, great way of designing cars. Aesthetically, these cars are immaculate. The second greatest part which I feel about Tata is they are the flag bearers of safety in India. They were the first manufacturers who took the stride in their own hands and said, we would make safe cars. That's why they kicked off Nano, irrespective of what financial issues that product created. But they wanted to be a manufacturer of safer cars, and that they are. That's their major USP. People know Tata cars mostly for their safety standards than any other standard. Coming off other standards, quality control, although improving, still needs a lot of work. Even with the Sierra, fortunately, it had a lot of hype in the market, which was induced very well through their marketing teams. Done in a fantastic way. People were much aware. Even my Kamwali is aware of the Tata Sierra because of how much she is seen on hoardings and newspapers or wherever she sees it. It was that popular. But at the same time, now since the cars have arrived at the showrooms, it has its set of issues. That hype that was created. Now everyone wants to make a video about the Tata Sierra. Everyone from my pan wala to my sabji wala to the kid in the society wants to go to a Tata showroom, make a video about Tata Sierra and use the hype and become popular.
And I think that's exactly what Tata wants.
But that's exactly what is creating problems for them, because now that hype is being monetized by people who are going to the showrooms, checking out the car. They are now seeing the problems that are there, like lights are not functioning, screens not functioning. There is issue with that electric tailgate. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And because it's such a trending topic on the internet, it's more visible to the public now that there are problems. So as much as good hype was created, there's bad hype in equivalent volumes that's also been created for the Sierra, which is something Tata should be scared of. But hats off to them for making such a great product. They got their petrol engines finally. I hope they are reliable. I hope they do well. Hope is a great word, but I'm looking at how well they are integrating solutions to the problems they've had, and they're cleaning off problems, but at the same time they're using the wrong means to clean out their problems in smaller numbers. Like, I was made aware of something very silly, which any competition brand would want to do, but it is dirty that they did. They had an agency which was paying meme pages 100, 200, 500 rupees based on their popularity to post a video about a competition product like the Kia Seltos. That, oh, Kia ne ye kya kar diya, ye kya घटिया गाड़ी बना दी, ये क्या डिजाइन कर दिया. People haven't even seen the car. People haven't even experienced the car. But you've created that sort of notion that people would want to hate the design of the Seltos.
It's a lovely car though.
I saw it for the first time in Bangalore when I recently drove it around Nandi Hills during its launch drive. The quality control of Kia is excellent. We literally had a scale to measure how wide the panel gaps were. They were uniform across the car. In a mass market car, the quality of materials, the ergonomics, fit and finish on the inside.
I think Hyundai Group in general, they've always maintained
Hats
that.
off. But not just maintain the consistency in creating cars which are great.
And yes, a consistent evolution, I would say.
Yeah.
They have consistently evolved.
Which was really impressive, but I was really sad to say that Tata as a brand was doing it. See, I have access to advertising agencies, I have access to marketing agencies and how they function and what sort of work is going on behind the scenes. And when I was made aware of it, which unfortunately I was made aware of it, I don't think this was bad. If you have confidence in your product, let it sell itself. How many hoardings have you seen about the Kia Seltos? No. Because they are confident about the product, they know the car would sell consistently. It would not have a small spike of hype and then it will go down. No. People who would buy Seltos before, they'll buy it again. And they would encourage their peers to get it because it's that good a product.
Yeah.
And they've worked really hard on it. They are reliable. They are safe because of the current platform that they're using is a platform that is getting 5-star in Euro NCAP, the Kia Seltos. They were particular about because the last Kia Seltos that was sold, it was not particularly good with crash test. But the current Kia Seltos is based on the same platform as the Hyundai Kona, which gets a 5-star rating in Euro NCAP, which is the strictest NCAP rating. So hats off to them for making such a car. But yeah, Tata, great product. Don't hype it in a wrong way. Don't bring down other people if you have confidence in your product.
You know what? On that, I'd like to come to what exactly I was wanting to talk to you about, which is very much connected to the three most popular Indian car manufacturers, which is Tata Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra, and Maruti Suzuki. मुझे जो लगता है जो key difference है, you know, in connection to what you're saying is, where Maruti is at another level, number one, is कि their process of launching a product, they take into consideration all the aspects from the client's perspective, the client's experience perspective. Maruti is very clear in their belief structure that, boss, if a Maruti car owner, if I'm selling a car, for example, a Maruti Suzuki car in the market, the guy from day one, first of all my service centers should be able to handle that car, handle every aspect of that car. कुछ खराब होता है तो they should be having that complete training of handling that
they
car.
do really well.
They have nailed it. Secondly, From the aspect of the EV that they've recently, the e-Vitara that they've recently launched,
Yeah.
I think the differentiation. Actually, I'd like to ask you, what's your view on the way Tata and Mahindra launched their EV and the way Maruti launched their e-Vitara?
There are pros and cons to it. So I'll focus majorly on the e-Vitara and then I'll connect it to the other cars in its competition. One great thing that Maruti did was to identify the major loophole in the consumer approach towards EVs. Now, there was a spike of popularity with EVs about 4 years ago during COVID. It slowly went down because of the unavailability of reliable and functioning chargers across the country. Maruti said, let's figure this out. They collaborated with a charging company. Rather than putting charging station at their dealerships, they said we'll identify spots, which are the hot spots of electric car owners. We'll put out fast chargers over there so people have access to fast charging within their vicinity, which is a major problem right now because not all RWAs, especially in Delhi NCR where you have apartment floors, you need a lot of permissions to get your charger installed with your meter.
Okay.
And 70% of the time it does not happen. It happened with me as well. I had installed a charger in my society and these guys got it removed because it does not comply to the policies of the society, although the government has clearly mentioned that it has to be allowed. But then RWs have their own policies, their own rules, set of rules, which is still in process of modification. It's going to take a long, arduous time to get in proper action. But people are suffering from it. So what's the next easiest way to charge the car is a public charger. Again, within, let's say an example of Delhi NCR, we've got so many cab aggregators which use 70 to 80% of public charging stations. Like I had a Creta EV very recently for about a month and I had to charge the car at a charging station in DLF Cyber City. I saw 4 cabs parked on all the 4 chargers and they're sitting there for 2.5 hours. Same thing happens, and in fact it was a video that I posted about a year ago. I was charging my MG Comet. I went to charge my MG Comet at a nearby charging station in Sector 13 Dwarka, which is owned by GOBP. But they had given access to Blue Smart completely for all the chargers. I'll have to take permission from Blue Smart to charge my car rather than GOBP. So that entire loop is very confusing. It's agonizing for a consumer who has paid a huge sum of money for an electric car. They can't charge it properly at home. They have issues charging it at public charging station because of accessibility and availability. So what am I supposed to do? So I'm glad Maruti identified that. They plan to put about 10,000 charging stations across major cities, towns in the next 1 year, which is a very short period of time. They are planning on more, 20-30% of what I got to understand.
And they'll not take too much time.
Maruti has a sense of urgency.
Ab nahi karenge.
With ecosystem as well. And that is something that I'm really glad of. That they identified problem with the ecosystem. They're working on it, not just working on it, taking action and installing it. Now let's come to the cons part of it. The product. I would call it a cons because they took 8 years. And we all saw the electric Wagonars and different electric cars that they were using for homologation and testing purpose for their motors, the batteries and all those technologies. They took 8 years to bring a car which is a ground up EV or born electric, which is not really ergonomic to use. So there is lack of space at the back. There is a battery pack which makes this floor high up, so you sit a little knees up if you're sitting at the back. You have less headroom. The boot space is as shallow as a hatchback, although it's an SUV, and you have a front wheel driven architecture. Although car manufacturers in India like Mahindra and Tata have brought in cars which are much more advanced in a shorter period of time. They might lack quality control, but then it's half the time that they took to build a car which is, and this is saying out loud, almost 5 to 6 times better. Look at the B6 from Mahindra. absolutely fantastic in terms of packaging, in terms of ergonomics. It had its share of issues electronically. All those issues were there. There were too many complex electronics in the car. But Mahindra was quickest to fix them, and they got the car running back in the market. It's currently running on phase 2 or phase 3 of its updates. But it's functioning really well. Maruti Suzuki, with all its resources, all its money, all its brains sitting in their large factories, they couldn't have thought of something more compliant to the demand right now in India, which is not what the e-Vitara, connects to.
Do you think they'll struggle because of this reason in terms of numbers? Selling numbers?
Hugely. Because at a similar price point of what Maruti is planning to bring the e-Vitara at, which I'm suspecting is very close to the BE6, you're getting a better product with Mahindra and Tata. You're getting a better product with Hyundai. A Hyundai Creta, although it's not a born electric car, but the way it has been packaged and the way the architecture is designed, it's far better than the e-Vitara if you look at car to car. Of course, it's going to be more safer, the e-Vitara, because of the architecture and how it complies to European norms, because it's sold in UK right now. But even in UK, people are not a fan of it. If you look at the videos from very truth-centric auto journalists, they have bashed the car left, right and center. They're saying at a lesser price, you can get a car which is 2 times better. VinFast has made a better car than Maruti Suzuki when it comes to electrics. So they failed. I shouldn't say the word failed, but they could have done far better with the product, as much as they're doing with the ecosystem, which is, again, very impressive.
I think I'll tell you my observation because we work in my main business quite closely with Maruti. What my observation is, as always, Maruti's focus is very clear at the initial stage of introducing their e-Vitara, and that is that first let us introduce a basic product and first let's address the main pain point of the prospective buyer. And then slowly and steadily we'll evolve the infrastructure as well as the car over a period of time. I think that's what they're trying to do. Plus they know for a fact, see, nobody can doubt Maruti Suzuki's research and development in terms of when they launch a car. They have so much data. They have so much data. Probably none of the OEMs would possibly have that kind of data. What kind of people would buy the car first, and what would be the income segment, and so on and so forth. So I think us hisab se they've planned everything, and I mean, I'd be definitely happy to see them address the issues in terms of a more feature-rich car and a more ergonomic car.
But that works in the Indian perspective. See,
correct.
Completely understand your point, completely agree to your point, large. But we have to understand that the consumer demands in the segment price bracket where Maruti is trying to enforce its product is demanding way more than what it's supplying. Maruti could have premiumized their product and made it something which stands out of the crowd at the price they're trying to push it at. When other manufacturers with lesser resources than Maruti Suzuki in terms of scale are able to produce such brilliant products, why can't Maruti Suzuki do the same? How difficult was it to understand or identify where and what Indian consumers wanted and make a product in accordance to that? I'm sure they'll bring something more better in terms of the packaging in the future, or they have the urgency to do that. Because as far as the e-Vitara goes, it might just be an experiment for Maruti to see and get data, again how you said that they have a lot of data to understand what the demand really is. How Citroen also functioned. Everyone said, even I sort of had a first-hand notion that Citroen would not succeed more, but the way they pushed down a very basic product into the country. There was a C3, then the Citroen came. It did not give anything which was very flamboyant, very, something that would make me ecstatic as a car owner. they were giving things which were much lesser in terms of packaging than the competition brands, but they were also understanding the market very, very deeply. And in 4 years, last year they launched the Aircross X, the Basalt X, the C3X, and the jump in quality and packaging that has happened. Currently, Citroen has, and this is saying out loud, they have the best AI assistant in their cars than any manufacturer in India.
Really?
It's called the Cara. I did a bit of testing when I had the car with me. It's an almost humanoid AI system which speaks to you like a human being and understands emotional, logical and practical questions, needs of anyone who is asking or sitting in the driver's seat or the passenger seat. You can speak to them. You can ask them multiple things. You can, and each and every, let's say, navigation or music, let's say, oh, I'm feeling a little sad. Can you play something for me according to that? They'll play something. None of the manufacturers are doing that. They're trying to integrate futuristic technologies into something which is very basic in terms of its infrastructure. They're not making unergonomic cabins. They have large physical buttons, they have rotors and everything in the right places. They have not a very big screen. But the AI assistant, they work so well with the AI assistant that it has to do everything. If a person is driving and they have their eyes on the road, all they have to do is speak. And whatever they speak has to be obeyed by the AI assistant and has to be done. You want to, Cara, can you just book me a table at my restaurant, at my favorite restaurant at 9 o'clock? Sure, done. They'll send a message to it. Yeah, they connect to your phone. They send a message to your favorite restaurant.
Oh my God.
In a car which costs 10.5 lakh rupees.
I didn't know that.
So these are the things that they identified are required for the Gen Z, future generations, and even millennials at large. But also be fundamentally correct at making a car function like a car. It's safe, got 5-star rating, does not have a sunroof because it's a give or take. Most of the people don't want sunroofs. Most people like. In India, it works and does not work. It depends on where you live. In Delhi, if you are running around with a sunroof, it's going to heat up too much. It's going to eat up a lot of your air conditioning compressor's energy. They gave a air conditioning compressor which is almost 1.5 times bigger than what the car requires. So if you ever get to experience a Citroen car at 45 degrees Celsius outside and a car sitting under the sun for almost 2 hours, completely hot on the inside, it takes fan speed 2 out of 8 at a temperature of 16 to cool down that car in 2 minutes. That car has a minimum air conditioning temperature setting of 13 degrees, which none of the manufacturers give. And that's a huge USP for them. The people who understood that about Citroen, they love it. But again, it's not something which is marketed too much. They did not spend much. They're very frugal as a company. They're like, let's say we've got 100 rupees to spend. We'll spend 5 rupees. Let's push this product. Chalega? Nahin, theek hai. Let's spend another 5 rupees, push this product. Is it going to work? Oh, it's working. Let's spend another 5 rupees to make it better. But let's keep the next 80 rupees to safeguard ourselves if anything goes wrong. So they're being very frugal with that. People say, oh, it's going to die. Oh, the brand is going to walk out of the country. Of course not. If you look at their financials, they're very, very smart people sitting in their ecosystem. And some of my friends are working there, so I understand how they're functioning, and the products right now, they speak volumes.
You're right. There are gaps in the market. There are gaps in understanding vehicles. So talking about gaps, that brings me to my next topic where I personally feel there's a gap, but I'd like to understand from you more about it because you've been in the game and you know things inside out. Is about the crash test ratings. And why I bring you to that topic, I'd like to know about that topic from you is because I observed something a few months ago, probably a year ago. I'm not sure which model that was, but 1 or 2 particular cars, I observed that in Euro NCAP crash test rating and Global NCAP crash test rating, their rating was quite poor. And in Bharat NCAP crash test rating for the same vehicles, it was a very superior rating. So I got confused about the fact that is it that the Indian standards do not require to be at that level, or is it some sort of you know what I'm talking about, sort of a lobbying which is happening between the OEMs and Bharat NCAP? What is the reality?
It's a very controversial topic, Aradhya.
That's why I'm asking.
First of all, with the kind of research that I've done on it, and I was wanting to, make a full post, make some videos about it, but I'm glad we're discussing it over here because I think this is going to be amplified even more.
And I think it's important for people to know this.
So NCAP and Global NCAP are testing agencies, or let's just dissect the name. It's Bharat New Car Assessment Program. It's agency which crash tests cars through ICAT and ARAI labs and understand the safety standards in accordance to how Global NCAP or Euro NCAP function. Bharat NCAP has its own standards. If you want to understand deeply into it, there is this standard called AIS, Automotive Industry Standards 197. It's a full 157-page literature that you can understand as to what all things happen when it comes to testing, what sort of standards are followed. But a brief out of it, a frontal crash test happens at 64 kilometers an hour. Same happens with Global NCAP. Side impact happens at 50 kilometers an hour. The pole test happens at about 29 kilometers an hour. The key difference is, at large, which people need to understand, and this is connected to the unreliability of BNCAP also, that Global NCAP is funded by philanthropist companies like Bloomberg Philanthropy and FIA. These are the agencies which get their funds from whatever, let's say Formula One and all those. They have a small balloon of funds that they push into buying cars from the manufacturer by their own will and test it. Whereas with Bharat NCAP, a manufacturer pays to BNCAP to get their cars tested, and then according to the AIS 197 standard, a Bharat NCAP agent or a team of agents, they go to the factory, they pick one car from the lot, which safeguards Bharat NCAP's credibility from a golden unit that has been pushed to them. But I don't think that's happening. There is still the golden unit thing that's happening, where the manufacturer is sending their best product to get it tested. And when the crash test happens, when the results come out, it's sort of biased, which I feel. I am getting deep into what the game is, but this is what I understand, that in India, where we understand how corrupt our entire ecosystem is, if a manufacturer is paying an agency to test their cars, there is a huge possibility that it's also sending its own favorite product. Now, whereas with Global NCAP and Euro NCAP, they choose what car they want to pick.
Favorite product to kaise hoga? I mean, Swift ka crash test rating.
They're not sending the base model cars.
Okay.
They're not sending the cars with the least amount of safety net. They're sending their top models. They're not sending, Maruti did not send Celerio. They did not send the WagonR for testing. They did not send the cars which are crash test less worthy. Same as with other car manufacturers. They're sending the cars which they deem as the safest, to have a badge of being the safest car manufacturer in India. Fortunately, Tata is able to manufacture cars which are heavy in terms of safety net, but not every manufacturer is manufacturing. I mean, I have doubts on a lot of manufacturers. Toyota is not sending all their cars for BNCAP. Kia is not doing it. Hyundai is not doing it. Although Kia has tested and Hyundai have tested some of their cars which have come out to be great. But Bharat NCAP, how many 3-star or 2-star cars have you seen tested in Bharat NCAP? Almost none. Every car Bharat NCAP is testing is 5-star rated because the manufacturer is sending the best cars to test. Whereas with Global NCAP, you see cars with 2 stars, 1 star, 0 stars. because they have the authority to pick whatever car they want.
Yeah.
Whichever variant they want to get the right result to the public.
And is there a difference in crash testing standards between Bharat NCAP and global NCAP?
Crash testing standards are uniform.
Okay.
But again, those standards are only complied if the quality of the car is the same. When I talk about the golden unit, if you're sending, let's say they're manufacturing a cross beam or anything, it can be manufactured with a different material. It can be manufactured with a much thicker material for that golden unit. How difficult is it for any manufacturer to do that? It will take a little more, few more lakhs to do it. But when the crash test happens, if you're sending a golden unit, if it passes, it's not necessary that's going to go into production. Whereas with global NCAP, they just simply go to a dealership, like we'll get this car, we'll get this crash tested, and we'll see how good it is. Could be a case that that car gets 4 stars or 3 stars instead of 5 stars that what Bharat NCAP is giving. So that is one thing which puts me highly into a doubt if Bharat NCAP is a credible source of testing. A lot of people say, even AI says that, it's a credible source, there is an advantage to this and that. But then again, it has its own cons that, again, the golden unit formula that they might be using, because again, corruption is everywhere. You never know who is paying whom under the table to get the best car tested for the better result.
And how would you say that there is a difference between global and Bharat NCAP on one side and Euro NCAP?
Euro NCAP is the strictest. So Euro NCAP is governed by FIA and ADAC. So these are two units which have much higher standards. So Euro NCAP has the highest standard of testing when it comes to new car assessment over global NCAP, Latin NCAP and Bharat NCAP.
Okay.
Now with Bharat NCAP and global NCAP, systems, electronic systems like ESP, ABS, traction control, vehicle stability programs, other things which are more user-centric, are given points based on the availability of those features. So for example, you have a car, you have ESC available. They won't test it. They would just give points based on the availability of that feature. Whereas with Euro NCAP, that feature is tested. There are moose tests, there are slalom tests, there are wet and slippery surface tests that happen. So they test the viability and usability of that system in the real world at test centers.
Tell me one thing on that. From what I understand, ESP, TCS and all these features, aren't they supposed to be used before a crash happens? And isn't a crash test, NCAP crash testing which happens, isn't it supposed to focus on what happens to a car and the passengers inside after a crash? And if that's the case, then why is it that ESP and TCS kind of things are even taken into consideration for a crash test?
No, ESP and TCS are taken into consideration in a way that they avoid a crash. So let's say
that's
a separate test that happens. It's not happening during the crash test.
Okay.
So with Euro NCAP, there would be about 4 or 5 units of the cars. There's one car that's used for frontal crash. There's one car that's used for the pole test. There's one car that's used for the side impact. There's one car that's used for the slalom tests and other tests. There is one car which is top model and the other car that is used as a base model for slalom tests and ESP, the electronic thing.
Right.
So they buy a number of cars to understand the overall results for the car's safety net. Whereas with with the global NCAP and Bharat NCAP, it's basically 1 or 2 cars or 3 cars at max for the crash test itself. They don't check the viability and feasibility of the electronics, safety electronics on board.
So tell me one thing about Euro NCAP crash test rating that you mentioned earlier, that they are definitely stricter as compared to global NCAP and Bharat NCAP. Can you explain that a little more and giving a few examples and numbers?
See, we have to understand that when global NCAP or Bharat NCAP happens, there are tests that happen with the crash ratings. The crash tests happen. There are certain safety electronics which are used in a car like ESC, ABS, traction control, other traction systems that are there to safeguard someone from avoiding a crash. Those are rated on the availability in a particular car that's been tested in Global NCAP and Bharat NCAP.
Okay.
Whereas in Euro NCAP, those safety systems are tested in the real life. When Euro NCAP tests a car, they get a base model, a top model, and they get cars to crash test, and they get cars to test those safety systems on Moore's test, on different, friction of surfaces for their braking capacity and their the capabilities of how well the car handles and avoids a crash. ADAS now in today's time, of how easy is ADAS to use in those cars, how reactive is ADAS in real life situations. All those tests are done in Euro NCAP. And that is the compliance with them. And that's why the safety standards of Euro NCAP cars are much higher as compared to Global NCAP. And the Global NCAP is coming up with those tests to make it more stronger, because it's an NGO again, it's funded by an NGO. Bharat NCAP again is pretty standard. It's just do the crash test. It has safety systems available. Okay, give the rating, done. It's not as strong, that's why. And henceforth, Global NCAP or the Euro NCAP is something which is regarded as the highest safety standard in the world.
And how do they take into consideration real life instances? Let's say, for example, because talking about expressways in India and the average speeds of cars on expressways in India versus the average speed of cars on the expressways in Europe, it's much higher in Europe.
Of course.
So how do they take that into consideration in their tests?
So they have their standards of how thick the cross beam should be and how well built the internal structure of the car is. If you compare, let's say, the Hyundai i20 that's sold in India and the Hyundai i20 that's sold in Europe or Germany, they're much different. A Hyundai i20 there starts at 20 to 23 lakh rupees INR. We have that car that tops at 13 lakh rupees with all the bells and whistles. So the quality of materials, the safety systems on board, the heaviness of the car in terms of its structural bars in the front and at the rear to safeguard the passenger, it's much higher in quality, and that sort of standard is compliant to the Euro NCAP norms. The manufacturers have to be compliant to it because Euro NCAP is not going to spare anyone. Whereas with Bharat NCAP, it is a much easier way to get things gone because it's funded by the manufacturer who's getting the car tested. So it's like going to a lab saying, "Mera blood test kar do," and he'll do the blood test, but he would want you to not have too much stress. So you can pay him a little more, give me a better result. No, मैं वो घर पे दिखाना है. That could also be happening.
Really?
Is India a very non-corrupt country? If you have the money, you can make yourself have a blood test to show to the world like a superhuman. But you internally know where you stand to make profits. Again, a car manufacturer is not an NGO. It's a profit-making business. If you want to get the best out of it, you want to showcase the best, you can do whatever you want. With Euro NCAP, things are different, henceforth. They have their own standards, they have their own set rules that the manufacturers have to follow. The similar situations with European auto journalists as well. They bash the cars if they think it's deemed to be done in the right way. In India, everything is there for a price.
But on that, that brings me to another question that I have in my mind when I compare a car manufacturer like, let's say, Maruti Suzuki, even if I take into consideration any of their 5-star crash test rated vehicles, and we compare it to a European car manufacturer, let's say even if we compare a basic Volkswagen which exists in India or even a Skoda for that matter, I've observed one thing, that cars like Maruti Suzuki and Toyota in India, at least, they generally selling high selling models here. I don't know if you've observed it, but उनका जो डोर पैनल होता है, अगर आप उसके हाथ उसके ऊपर रख के हल्का सा दबा दो, वो पूरा दरवाज़ा दब जाता है. एंड उसके लिए अगर मैंने I spoke to some of the people working in these organizations, or I should say I spoke to some of these service centers also. What they say that the outer sheet metal is not what really matters. It's supposed to be there. It's
That
a
is
crumple
correct.
zone.
That is correct.
And what matters is the tensile strength of the metal used inside.
In the core structure. That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
If that's correct, then why is it that the Europeans are, the doors feel way more sturdy and they don't get pressed with their hand?
Standards. You don't set standards in India. If that was a standard set by Bharat NCAP, if it was a similar case to how Euro NCAP functions, if it was the same strictness that was followed here, it would have been a different thing.
But
I challenge Indian car manufacturers, for that matter, to take their cars, all their products that are available in India, take it to global NCAP, take it to Euro NCAP once. Try testing your cars over there. And then we'll see how well they are built.
But then if that crumple zone thing is right, which I know for a fact that it's supposed to be right.
It is correct.
Then why do you need to have a thicker sheet metal outside?
Because the thicker sheet metal...
I mean, how does it help?
It would increase, it would amplify the crumple a lot, because if you have a thicker sheet, it will take lesser time. It will take actually more time to come to the cabin. If you have a thicker sheet. So the crumple zone, if it has a thicker sheet, of course it increases the weight of the car. Of course it increases the cost of manufacturing because you're using a thicker material. It decreases the profitability of the manufacturer. The manufacturers in India are anyway paying so much taxes on cars. The consumer is also paying so much taxes on cars, and India is not a rich country. Our per capita income to purchase a car is not that high. Henceforth, we are running in a very price sensitive market. When you're running in a price sensitive market, you have to cut down on costs, and you have to make sure that every material, every nook and creek that you're using has to be slightly compromised to meet those costs. But at the same time, you have to make the cars, so the core structure, Mahindra, Tata, even Maruti for that matter that they're using, that has been less compromised. They've made it more strong. But the sheet outside, that's something that shouldn't matter most. So that is also one of the places where they can make small but compounded profits.
Okay. And just to end the conversation, because I think I can keep going on and on about this, but what are those few changes in the entire system of the automobile industry? When I talk about changes, I mean changes in sorry, I'll reframe again. So one last question I'd like to ask you is that, let's say tomorrow you are sitting in a position wherein you have the right and you have all the freedom that it requires to make certain changes and standards in policies related to, let's say, safety, which includes crash test rating, and policies related to the implementation of more sustainable fuels, like we discussed in the first part. What are some of the changes and standards that you would bring in?
See, if I were a minister, I would think rationally and towards both the sides, towards the consumer also and towards the business also, because I can't be anti anyone. From the manufacturer's point of view, I do understand they have to be profitable to run their ecosystem. They have to be profitable to be at their best at what they're doing, to make any car manufacturer stand out of the crowd in the world of car manufacturers in the world. If India has to be at the top of the game, they have to be subsidized, encouraged and pushed in terms of making their profits. So I will have to help them. But at the same time, I'll have to make sure that each and every quality, let's say the sheet metal, the safety standards, the quality standards, the reliability standard. I don't know why Indian manufacturers don't talk about reliability standard. There should be a reliability standard. There should be a rating on reliability that should happen every year. Every manufacturer should be rated on how reliable their products are. There should be a survey taken from the customers, and every negative point should be penalized to the manufacturer. That would help manufacturer push for a better skill set at their after sales service, a better skill set at their factories, more polished products. It's only going to improve from there on. We don't talk about that. We talk about hypothetical things because safety is something very important. But we talk about features, we talk about a lot of things that at the end of the day don't matter much. But reliability is something which is very, very important in a country like India, which has different demographics. We've got, even geographically, we are very, very different. We have places where there are temperatures plummeting to minus 20, minus 25 degrees Celsius in Ladakh. We've got places where temperature goes up to 50 degrees Celsius in Rajasthan. We've got places where it rains a lot. There's a place like Gurgaon where it floods a lot. And at the end of the day, if a car is bought by a person and they spend their heart, it's like car is the second most expensive thing someone buys. If that product is not reliable, if it's not something that allows a person to do their job in a more stress-free manner, if it kills their opportunity cost, then they should be penalized as manufacturers. So that is something that I would want to implement into the market or into the industry, which should be a pioneer as a activity to be done in the industry. Second thing is, from the fuel side, encourage manufacturers to be open to bringing in newer technologies. Ethanol is there. If I have E20 running in my fuel pumps right now, I should have told my car manufacturers to make E30 compliant cars about 5 years ago. Not just E20. Make cars which are E50, E30 compliant.
Because so that was not communicated by the Indian government to the OEMs?
That was communicated, but it was not pushed or implemented very strongly.
And as far as I remember, now that we are talking about it, the actual plan of the ethanol fuel rollout was to be done by 2030 or something, and for some reason...
5 years before it happened. So we are in a troublesome situation right now because neither manufacturers nor consumers were ready. And the biggest hit, of course, the consumers take. That is one thing. There has to be a proper step-by-step process in doing things. You can't just hurry it for the sake of profits because, of course, you'll get the profits if you want as a ministry, but then the people are not dumbs. They know what's happening. At the end of the day, it's going to hit me back. And it is hitting them back pretty badly this time around. So that's another thing. And in the safety situation, what we are seeing right now is there is a tsunami of features that are pushed into the cars. India is a country where we have too much hindrances, too many obstacles on the road while we're driving. We're not Europe yet. We don't have the environment and infrastructure of clean, uninterrupted driving on the roads. Even if you're on a highway, you'll have cows, dogs, e-rickshaws, drunk people, people with flashing Tata Sierras and Cretas, people who are drunk. Every sort of person, every sort of hindrance could be there on the road. So when we don't have that sort of safety infrastructure on the road, why do we want to manufacture and design cars which are extremely, obstructing in terms of their usability? Now, what trend we are seeing right now is that there's this 3-screen packaging that's coming in cars. All these car manufacturers like Tata has got their Sierra with 3 screens, XUV 7XO which is going to be launched has 3 screens. Why do we need a 3rd screen? It's a distraction to the driver. And why are we missing out on proper physical buttons? Like some manufacturers are going back to physical buttons because Euro NCAP now makes it mandatory for all car manufacturers to have proper physical buttons for their cars to pass a safety test.
Really?
That's a new policy that happens in 2025. So every car manufacturer should have proper physical buttons. Audi was planning to get touch controls and capacity to touch. They've all gone back to proper physical buttons. Volkswagen had it in their Golf GTI and the Golf that was being sold in the UK and Europe. They've gone back to proper physical buttons. So why don't we stick to the norms which make driving an easy, stressless and safer exercise, especially in a country which India is with so many hindrances on the road. So that is one thing that I would want to implement to every manufacturer that, of course it's a wow factor for a car to have 3 screens for the front passenger. But even our mothers would say, oh, while you're sitting in the car, while it's moving, don't look at the screen.
Yeah.
Why are you adding another one? People would puke in the front seats. Why do you want so much dirt on your car? So these are the things that I would want to implement. And thirdly, diesels are the backbone of our country. And I would really want and I would push the manufacturers to, design and manufacture diesel hybrids. And perhaps if I have the power, subsidize them to doing so. Give them carbon credits on doing so. Get bigger batteries, plug-in hybrids for diesels. Because diesel is, again, profitably it won't be very, very good for me. If I have to run the country, economically it would be a little less profitable for me. But at the same time, if I have technologies to lower the emissions, save the environment at large, and still make profits out of it by selling good volumes, then why not? So yeah, it's India is on the right path in terms of how cars are being manufactured. There are hindrances that we spoke about. It's a long, arduous process for us to become a properly developed country when it comes to the automotive market. Fortunately, some manufacturers are doing a great job at that. But we're still far away from where even smaller countries are functioning in terms of quality, in terms of their safety standards, which I really yearn to see in this country to happen with urgency. But yeah, it's a far-fetched dream.
And I think to connect to what you're saying, there is a dire need of, the influential people in this space who can actually put in a word and get the right changes made. I think there is a need of more intelligent and educated people in this space, from this space, who can be influential to be able to make the right kind of changes.
But besides that, we also need intellectual and intelligence has a great role to play, in fact, but also to implement it in a very smart way, because volumetrically we are a huge country.
So that automatically that has to come. That has to come.
So
like a perfect example would be how ethanol was implemented in Brazil and how it was implemented in India. Out here in our country, like we discussed earlier, that there was no such thing as E0, E5, E10, E15, E20, E30. Yeah. It was just straight E20.
There is no roadmap for it. And as rightly questioned by Hormaz Sorabji during the SIAM conference, there was no proper answer to it. And the government is just, heading head on to the public and saying, oh, we'll do whatever we want to. And that's actually causing a lot of issues to the people. And again, as we've seen, even with this BS4 ban in Delhi NCR, a lot of cars which were manufactured in 2018, 17, not very old. People have spent road taxes for 15 years. They're not able to ply their cars in Delhi NCR because there's pollution.
Yeah.
There are other factors of pollution that are happening that the government is not taking care of. Just target the cars. So that's something which is really sad and heartbreaking to see. And fortunately, it's not happening all across the country. But you never know when the pollution just goes around and all these policies come into strong play, and government creates norms which are unrealistic and problematic for consumers and manufacturers alike. So yeah.
Well, I think another long conversation I would love to do with you in
very
times to come.
Very deep topics we spoke about.
And probably in the next one I would love to talk to you more in detail about the GRAP norms and the NGT norms.
Oh.
Because that itself is a whole universe of information that we can actually keep on talking about.
It's an endless conversation.
Yes, it's
honestly.
an endless conversation. But once again, thanks a lot today for making it here and having a great conversation with you. It's always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Time for lunch.